the 22nd. And that is a result of our power in these streets. That is the result of the work that we have done. And we have to recognize that, y'all.
Hey, what are you?
Because yeah, we don't mess with those politicians, but we're gonna make those politicians do what we need to do, and that's exactly what's happening right there. And that public hearing that's coming up, we don't have a date for that, but that's not only going to be for our experiences. That's going to be for the experiences of the black and brown communities who have also had to endure violence from the police, who endure violence from the police on a daily basis and don't have the power of the movement behind them. And so we're going to give them an opportunity to speak about their experiences and take power into their hands. So, I was out here a little early and I was playing ball with these kids, and they're like, what is this? Is this a protest? I was like, yeah. We're Detroit Will Breathe. You ain't heard of us? He's like, nah. I don't watch TV. I got, what do the kids got? They got the Instagram and what's the other little one? The TikToks. So, he ain't seen us. But he asked me, he was like, hey, aren't y'all scared they're going to shoot you with rubber bullets? Gonna hit you with tear gas? Batons? I was like, no, we ain't scared of no damn police. In fact, the reason they ain't gonna be doing nothing like that is because there's a federal restraining order on their ass right now. That's the power of this movement. See, that's the thing. We ain't scared of the police. The police are scared of us because we are creating change every day that we are out here. And that's something we gotta keep in mind and stay focused on. So, I'm sorry, we're going to educate them. Black Lives Matter. That's why we're out here. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
And so the thing is, man, that Jimmy Craig, man, he's always on there lying his ass off, getting on Fox News. Spends all his damn time on Fox News, paying him $250,000 to go and lie on us. Justify the killings of black people, but he's in the hot seat now. Because the thing is that ever since he became chief of police, he hasn't had any accountability. He's been able to terrorize the city with free reign. And it's funny, he's talking about gun violence when he's the one who told everybody to get a gun.
That's right.
That was the words of Craig.
Yeah.
And then he wants to criminalize people for defending themselves against the police. Fuck James Craig.
Fuck James Craig.
Fuck James Craig. I can't stand that motherfucker. Let me watch my language, some children around here. But I'm mad, But I'm also hopeful because we have done a lot of work in these streets, And so when you have James Craig getting into it with people that are supposed to be on his team, Kim Worthy, the Wayne County prosecutor, getting into it with it, he's getting uncomfortable. No more Mr. Hollywood when 40 organizations are calling for his resignation. Because it's time to go. Craig gotta go. Take Duggan with him. So, as many of you know, several of our medic vehicles that were impounded on the 22nd are still in police impound. Because they're trying to, they're looking for any means of retaliation that they can muster. And so, that ain't going to fly with us. That ain't going to fly with us. We might have to do a little picket at the impound. I want to know how many people are down to do that. Because I'm going to tell you, it might be a little confrontational. But we're going to get those medic vehicles. We're going to get our cars back. Because, I don't care about how DPD is feeling. I don't care that DPD is upset that they can no longer act with impunity. That we're checking their ass. Because that's how it's been. But that's not how it's going to be. And so, just want to bring that up. We don't have a set date for that. But 20 days is coming up on Friday. And so then, after 20 days, they're talking about they're going to sell those vehicles.
Fuck
They're going to sell our medic vehicles. After they brutalized our medics, took their vehicles, fucked us up, now they're trying to sell our vehicles. We going to have that?
No.
We going to let that happen?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
We're not gonna let that happen. We're not. Weird, because we're just not having that shit.
So, some of you were out here with me yesterday, and my man Evan talked about the legacy of emergency management in this city. And that was very clear when we were marching because, we marched past at least two former Detroit public schools that were boarded up, gone. And, in emergency management, they closed 25 schools. They closed 25 schools, and they put more money into the police department. That don't make no sense. That doesn't make sense for black and brown Detroit, and we're not going to have that shit no more.
That's right.
We're getting that budget because it's becoming clear when you're spending the majority of your city budget on militarized police, and you're only spending, a fraction of the city budget on health and human services, it becomes clear what your priorities are. Hyper-policing, which is something that's going on in my neighborhood, which is just about a mile down the street from here, down Grand River. I see more police than I have ever seen down there. And you want to know why? Because they're getting it ready for the rich, the white, and the wealthy. Because they don't care about poor and working class black Detroit, but we do. And that's why we're out here. And so we're shifting the priorities of this city, and we have to be cognizant of all the victories that we've had, because it's straight up victories. There has not been a movement like this in Detroit in decades. In decades. The police reel in fear when they hear the name Detroit Will Breathe. And we did that. And so I just want us to keep that in mind. And also keep in mind, what brought us here? What brought us here 104 days ago? The murder of George Floyd, the murder of Breonna Taylor, the murder of Priscilla Slater, and indeed the murder of Hakeem Littleton, the execution of Hakeem Littleton. And I tell you now, we will eternally be seeking justice for my brother Hakeem Littleton. That's a fact. Say his name. Hakeem Littleton. Say his name.
Hakeem Littleton.
And so we have that coming up on October 3rd. We're going to have a tribunal similar to the one we had early in the movement. And that's going to be an opportunity, to bring to light, how unprofessional and how corrupt this police department has been. And like I said earlier, you got 40 organizations calling for the resignation of Craig, and you also have a growing body of people calling for a federal investigation into that murder, because that's what it was.
Yeah.
There ain't no other way to cut it. Anybody who's seen that video slowed down, you know exactly what happened. But that's the thing, is before that, that was something, there wasn't no press conferences. There wasn't no body cam videos. There was nothing. It was just another black man dead in Detroit. That's how it worked before. It don't work like that now. I said it don't work like that now. The city of Detroit is majority black, over 80% black. That has not changed, despite all that bullshit going on downtown, going on in Cass Corridors. Despite all that bullshit, it's still 80% black. It's a majority black city. And 40% of this city is in poverty. 40% of this city is in poverty. And that means that black and brown communities are in a state of crisis, in a state of economic crisis, compounded by a health crisis with this pandemic. But the federal government, instead of sending aid, sends money for federal agents to terrorize communities, to imprison black men on trumped up gun charges. This is crazy. And we got to stand against this shit. We cannot allow that to happen, because what we want from the federal government is money for fucking health care, education, housing, guaranteed employment. Those are the things that are going to shift the paradigm in this city. Those are the things that are going to realize the project of black liberation. Not more police. Police haven't done shit for Detroit. We have more police than we've had in 20 fucking years, and that hasn't made a difference for working class Detroit. It hasn't made one difference at all. And so we're changing the priorities. We ain't, no. So that $2.4 million that they sent for DEA agents, ATF agents, ICE agents, who are terrorizing our immigrant communities in Southwest. They just did a raid last week, like 40-some people, ripped from their homes. And those are our people. So that's got to change. And we got to stay out in these streets until it does. You know, and I said something yesterday. You know, it's not a matter of numbers. It's a matter of justice. So when you look around you and you don't see that many people, that doesn't make it any more pressing. That doesn't make our cause any less urgent. We have to stay out here until all our objectives are met. Until Black Lives Matter all the time. So I just want y'all to keep that in mind. And the last thing I'm gonna end with, and you know we're gonna get started here pretty soon, is going back to hyper-policing, because that's what facial recognition is. Of course, we want to end Project Greenlight, but that's just one, that uses facial recognition, but that doesn't encompass the entire use of facial recognition. So we want to end facial recognition altogether, because that's how they further the hyper-policing of black and brown communities. And, you know, even if we wipe out Project Greenlight, which we will, fuck a green light. Fuck a green light. Fuck a green light. If they're still allowed to use facial recognition, that's going to just take shape in some other form. And so what we're doing is we're working on a petition to completely ban the use of facial recognition in any capacity by law enforcement. At all. And so we're going to need your help in getting that out to the community, because that's something that's going to actually change the material reality of the communities that we are fighting for. Because hyper-policing is what they're dealing with. And so we have to remember, opposition to police brutality is opposition to state violence in all its forms. And the fight against state violence is the fight against the fight for black lives. So we can't forget that. So, who do I got here to chant? We got Alan waiting on somebody else.
Oh yeah, Sammy and Jordan.
Sammy and Jordan on the way? All right, cool.
Hey everybody, how y'all feel? Great, it's a beautiful day to be out here, the early fall, late summer. But as we're doing this seasonal transition, as Lloyd was talking about, we still have something stuck from a couple weeks ago, those medical vehicles in impoundment. And I wanted to give, so I've been working with the car owners and with the lawyers, and I'll say that it's a little bit of a tricky spot for the lawyers. They're like, it's not a usual case for them. So they were like, we have a really good idea, and then they were like, okay, we're kind of out of ideas. We did the phone zap, we got the cars out of the first towing lot, and now it's just at DPD, and when you call DPD, you don't get anybody. You get disconnected line. The line they told you to call is disconnected. Mama Kate's been on the phone she just lets it ring for 20 minutes to see if anyone might pick up. You just try and find a person who'll give you any basic degree of information about your car. One of our medics is a single parent and said, I just didn't exactly realize how much more difficult everything was going to be without my car. And they won't give folks any information, how much money it's going to cost to get out, what the time frame might be, what are the steps from here to there. So we're still racking our brains. There is a success story that Pete Moss told me earlier today. David Douglas, who's been marching with us a lot, he's with BAM, and his car was impounded after the bus protests that we were doing in the mornings with BAM. His car was in evidence for a month and a half, and just got out of evidence because he showed up at the right moment and talked to the right person who just said, "Oh, this paperwork's not going to be a hassle. We'll get it out of the way." So I give you all that detail of the hassle that our folks have been going through for the protest movement, because I want to contextualize it a little bit and say that forfeiture, the taking people's cars without any reason just because you're police so you can do that, is called civil forfeiture. And it's how they get a lot of drugs. It's how they, basically when you have some shit and they take it just because they want to, that's called forfeiture. And they don't really have to have a good legal explanation for it. So, in Michigan, for 2016 and 2017, 736 people property was just stolen from them that weren't even charged with a crime. So this is just to say that the cars being taken from our folks is something that is relatively common for poor people, especially for Black and brown people. You're driving to work, you get pulled over for no reason, your car is towed without a reason, suddenly you don't have a car, you can't get to work, you can't pay to get it out of impound, the car is sold away from you. I mean, life can cascade away from you. Luckily, our folks have a bit of a support system. It's still inconvenient. In 2016 and 2017, 220 people were charged but found innocent and still had their assets forfeited to the government. And the value of all of the things on average taken from forfeited people that didn't do anything wrong, that there's never any charge of criminal activity, is at least $500. So we're talking about massive redistribution of wealth from the poor to the state. This is another way that poor people are just taxed for being poor, that it's done on the edge of legality. It's only done because they have the power and they can do whatever they want. And this is why we fight. We're fighting for our medics because we care about our community, and we're doing that as part of this larger fight because nobody should have to deal with the situation that our folks are going through right now as part of a regular experience of being poor and being a person of color in this country. So I just wanted to contextualize the fight that we're going through for our support vehicles, and pay attention for, if we can't get them out this week, there will most certainly be escalated actions that we're going to take, because it's just been too long. It's been too long already, and we're trying to find those. The issue is how to find those pressure points in the system. So the same way that we're thinking about this, the hearing for the tribunal for Hakeem Littleton, the hearing that we're going to hold about violence against protesters and in our communities, what this movement has already been successful at is finding those pressure points in the social systems, the places that normally the soft spots are covered up. And if we can get right in there, then we can unlock a whole set of possibilities that weren't possible before. So what we've done for the last 104 days, and what we're going to keep doing until we get justice, is finding those pressure points, exposing the weak spots, and making it to the next step. So it's not always as quick of a step or as easy of as a fight as we want, but we're in it together, and we are going to get to the other side.
Thank you, Allison. Yeah, it's a long fight, y'all. King famously said, "The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice." Bends towards justice. But sometimes you got to reach up and bend that arc towards the will of justice, and that's what we're doing when we're out here in these streets. And yesterday, I'm a human being. I'm a working class Black man. I have my days, and I wasn't feeling that great yesterday. And, I was like, I don't know about that march. And I called up my man Evan. He's like, what are you talking about? That was a great march. That was a great march. the people really felt that, you know. The neighborhoods that we were in felt that because they haven't seen nothing like that in a long, long time, if ever. And so I want you to think about that, like when we're out here in these neighborhoods, the impact on these black and brown communities when they see people coming by, standing up for them, empowering them so that they can stand up for themselves. That's what we're doing. You know, it's not all about downtown. We need to be out in these neighborhoods to show the people that we are with them, that we are the people. We are Detroit. When we march in these streets, we are the city of Detroit. You know, it really touched me because he told me a story about, you know, a family who had joined the march, and he saw him walking home, and the little girls were singing, "We're marching to justice." And like that changed my whole view of it and made me realize, man, every single moment of it was worth it. Every single moment that we are out here in the streets, it is worth it because the cause of black lives is worth it. Black lives matter. 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 I can hear you. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. What's up, y'all? Y'all good? How y'all feeling today? I mean, it was a little chilly yesterday, so it definitely feels better. But before we march, I want to just tell y'all a story and show y'all the level of systematic oppression that America has on black lives. So I was in the park. One day in my car, chilling. And these boys, they had to be at least between 15 and 18, right? And they like rushing over to where I'm parked. And they sound like they're tired. And it's like, 6 p.m.? And they sound like they're tired. They sound like they was running from something. And they parked their bikes right by me, so I can like hear all of their conversation. So I eavesdrop, and they're like, yeah, man, but with a smile on their face, laughing, keep this in mind. Yeah, man, oh, we have to get out of there, man. They was about to shoot, they was about to pop off for real, bro. But bro, we gonna be back tomorrow. Yeah, man, when they lost that dice game, oh, bro, he pulled out the gun, and bro, we all left when he shot. Oh, bro, it was crazy. They see this as a game. They see gambling, and if you lose, you might die, because that's how petty we can get in the hood. They think that is normal. They think that part of their life is just the natural way of their society. And this is why we're out here. This is why we have to act. This is acting. And I don't care what people who don't act and have an opinion, I don't care what they gotta say. Is the news covering them? Is any articles of change happening from what they're doing, sitting at home and commenting? No.
Commenting on the Facebook.
Exactly. That's all they can do. That's all they can do. So this is history. And we are a part of it. And we are going to make change. Real change.
That's right.
Because I'm tired. We ain't gonna let up. Whole squad here, we fed up. Straight up. Shout out to Jay Bass. All right, I love y'all. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Anybody got Anything else to say? You want to say something?
Okay. Let's talk about, do we talk enough about what we've accomplished in this movement? No, we don't. No, we do not. Okay, let's talk about what we've actually accomplished. I think it's important. One of my very dear mentors got me introduced to organizing and community engagement. He always said, it's very, very important to tell your story, to tell your own narrative, to control your narrative. Because if not, other people will tell it. And part of the challenge of this last 100 days is the fact that people constantly want to dictate the narrative when they're not even here. And they haven't even seen what has been accomplished. So they constantly want to judge, but they actually don't want to participate or take it upon themselves to take the steps to do what is right. So the first week, a curfew was instated. Now, curfew was instated not because of rioting and looting and chaos, not because of a pandemic, but to hinder the voices of people who came to non-violently protest police brutality against black people. During that first week, we broke that curfew several times, and what were we met with? Batons, tear gas, rubber bullets, sound cannons, flashbang grenades, pepper spray, pretty much everything but live bullets, right? We broke that bitch-ass curfew. And we did it together. And we did it non-violently. This movement has brought attention to Project Greenlight, which I'm sorry, but if you understand where the police state is going, this is a major step towards surveillance of all people, but predominantly brown and black people. It has responded to the calls of the families of Priscilla Slater and Theo Gray and Hakeem Littleton when no one else would. When people counted these people out, these people who have died at the hands of police. It has brought national attention to Priscilla Slater in a way that the deputy chief of Harper Woods has had to resign, that several police have had to resign, the mayor has had to resign of Harper Woods, who's been the mayor for 3 decades. It brought national attention to Hakeem Littleton, which showed the world the execution of a 19-year-old kid, point blank to the head, while he was already shot, while he was already restrained. That never would have happened unless this movement pressed for that. That's incredibly important to remember, because it underlines the fact that Black Lives Matter even when black people fuck up sometimes. It has forced the DPD to explain themselves every time they shoot another black person down in the streets, which never happened. They've never had to answer for that. And people felt like they never had the power to force them to answer for that. This movement has showed solidarity with its brown brothers and sisters from Palestine and Yemen and Latin America, places that are going through some of the worst turmoil in the world. Places where people come to live in Detroit from these areas. This movement has helped remove the racist symbols and statues, such as Christopher Columbus, from Jefferson Avenue downtown. Christopher Columbus was a genocidal maniac, however you want to look at it. A 15-year-old named Grace was released from detention center. Because she failed to do homework, she was kept locked up. If it wasn't for this movement answering the calls with others to bring attention to that, she might still be in detention to this day for not doing her fucking homework on probation. And that is how a prison to pipeline is created, through those types of examples. This movement put its freedom, folks had put their freedom and their bodies on the line to protect children to go back to Detroit public schools. when the state and the city were willing to allow the kids to be guinea pigs in a petri dish experiment. Had it not answered those calls, we may have a very different situation today. This movement ran fascists the fuck out of Kalamazoo. It ran the Proud Boys out of Kalamazoo. It has came to the calling of so many other cities. We forced the past DPD to pass measures preventing excessive force, such as banning chokeholds, and now cops supposedly are supposed to check other cops when they're doing unnecessary, brutal force. That never would have happened before this. There's a federal injunction against them. There's a tribunal being held against them. We have a coalition of the most courageous Detroit political leaders who always usually show up for the people to hold them accountable, calling for a full investigation. And we've also, I believe, have forced some officers to wake up in the morning and look at themselves in the mirror and question what the fuck kind of system they're involved with. Is this the shit that they signed up for? I believe that 1 or 2 or 3 of them have asked themselves that. And all this has been done by being resisting the temptation of being co-opted and compromised and watered down and whitewashed. All this while combating the gaslighting and every false narrative and twisted story and blatant lie that the press, that the police, the politicians, the naysayers from behind a keyboard want to throw at you. We have controlled their narrative and told our story against all odds. That is key. You've committed yourself to the cause of liberation for black people. Because you understand the liberation for black people is also liberation for us all. It's not just righteousness, it is also liberation for us all. It is liberation for the oppressed. From the hood to the trailer park, from the reservation to the barrio. When we dare to struggle, we dare to win. We can use our radical imaginations to free ourselves from environmental collapse, from economic inequality, and from all the other things that our future faces. So I want to thank you all for that. And I want to remind you, that's why I wanted to remind you of everything you have done thus far.
All right, we're going to get started here.